Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's navy's intercepted dozens of ships laden with humanitarian aid, halting efforts by international activists to break Israel's siege of the Gaza Strip. Video live streamed by the global Samud flotilla showed Israeli commandos boarding ships in international waters and abducting dozens of activists. A spokesperson for flotilla said at least 443 people from 47 countries have been taken into custody, among them Swedish activist Greta Thunberg and Nelson Mandela's grandson, the former South African MP Mandla Mandela. The raid came after Israeli forces issued a warning by radio as the flotilla sailed through international waters north of Egypt.
In an active war zone. If you continue and attempt to breach the naval blockade, we will stop your vessel and act to confiscate it through legal proceedings in court. You bear full responsibility for your actions.
Say that we are entering an active war zone, you're saying that we are entering a place where we are committing war crimes. This is against international law. Once again, the International Court of Justice made a provisional ruling that any attempt to hinder a humanitarian mission to Gaza is prohibited by international law and is complying with the request to make you accountable for the crime of genocide.
Israel's raid set off international outcry. Protesters took to the streets in solidarity with the flotilla in cities including Athens, Berlin, Buenos Aires, Istanbul, and Madrid. Italy's labor unions called for a general strike Friday. Pakistan's prime minister condemned what he called a dastardly attack, while South African President Cyril Ramaphosa demanded the immediate release of the flotilla's participants. After headlines, we'll get an update on the global Samud flotilla. Israel's military has issued what it's calling its final warning for residents of Gaza City to leave or face death. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said anyone who remains, quote, will be considered terrorists and terrorist supporters, unquote. The International Committee of the Red Cross announced it suspended operations in Gaza City due to Israel's intensifying assault. The Israeli military is also warning it will attack Gaza's Old City, home to Palestinian heritage sites, with overwhelming force. Israeli attacks across Gaza since dawn today have killed at least 20 Palestinians and injured dozens others. Here in the United States, the Trump administration's paused or canceled about $26 billion in previously allocated funds, primarily targeting states led by Democrats. The cuts come amidst the government shutdown. They include 2 infrastructure projects in New York totaling $18 billion. Meanwhile, the White House's budget director and chief architect of Project 2025, Russ Vought, reportedly told House Republicans to expect mass firings in the next day or so. On Wednesday, Vice President J.D. Vance sought to blame Democrats.
If this thing drags on for another few days or, God forbid, another few weeks, we are going to have to lay people off. We're going to have to save money in some places so that essential services don't get turned off in other places. That is the reality of the government shutdown that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have foisted upon the administration.
The Supreme Court declined President Trump's bid to remove Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve Board of Governors Wednesday. The court issued a 2-sentence order stating it will hear arguments about Cook's position in January. All former Federal Reserve chairs and former Treasury secretaries nominated by both parties had warned the court that removing Cook would undermine the independence of the Federal Reserve. Meanwhile, the White House has withdrawn the nomination of E.J. Antoni to head the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He's chief economist at the Conservative Heritage Foundation. In August, Trump tapped him to replace the previous commissioner, who Trump fired over revised job numbers. The FBI's domestic terrorism watch list is set to double in the coming months, according to journalist Ken Klippenstein, who's been reporting on President Trump's national security presidential memorandum titled Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence, also known as NSPM-7. The memo identifies potential domestic terrorists as someone expressing anti-Christian, anti-capitalism, or anti-American views. Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna responded on X, writing, quote, Trump's NSPM 7 represses freedom of speech and association, investigating any organization with anti-capitalism or anti-American views. I ran a primary in 2003 against the Patriot Act and war in Iraq. NSPM 7 is a greater infringement on freedoms than the Patriot Act, Ro Khanna said. Meanwhile, the Oscar-winning actress and activist Jane Fonda is relaunching her father's free speech organization Committee for the First Amendment, which Henry Fonda established in 1947 to combat the rise of McCarthyism. In a statement, the committee said, quote, the federal government's once again engaged in a coordinated campaign to silence critics in the government, the media, the judiciary, academia, and the entertainment industry. We refuse to stand by and let that happen. There are more than 500 signatories supporting the organization. Vice President J.D. Vance is defending President Trump for posting racist videos mocking House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. On Monday, Trump shared an AI-generated video on social media depicting Jeffries wearing a sombrero and curly mustache as mariachi music plays in the background. After Jeffries condemned the video as racist and bigoted, Trump on Tuesday posted another deep-fake video mocking his reaction. On Wednesday, Vice President Vance called the videos funny, adding, quote, the president's joking and we're having a good time, unquote. Meanwhile, the White House is defending President Trump's decision to post an AI-generated video promoting a fictitious White House launch of a historic new health care system, unquote. The deep-fake video appears as a Fox News segment hosted by Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. The clip is based on the medbed conspiracy theory, popular among QAnon followers who believe militaries around the world secretly possess top-secret devices that can diagnose and cure any disease, reverse aging, and regrow missing limbs.
Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system, the launch of America's first medbed hospitals and a national medbed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own medbed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world.
On Saturday, Trump's Truth Social account reposted the video before deleting the post hours later without explanation. At the White House, Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt defended Trump's actions, calling them quite refreshing.
I think the president saw the video and posted it and then took it down. And he has the right to do that. It's his social media. He's incredibly transparent, as you all know.
A federal judge in El Paso, Texas, has ordered ICE to immediately release DACA recipient Catalina Xochitl Santiago from custody. U.S. District Judge Kathleen Cardone, who was appointed by George W. Bush, wrote in her ruling the Trump administration, quote, did not present any evidence indicating Santiago has endangered anyone during her 20 years at liberty, including her 13 years under DACA. Tellingly, they failed to even articulate an individualized reason for which she should be detained, the judge wrote. Santiago was detained by ICE agents back in August at the El Paso airport and was on her way to a work-related conference with her wife, who is a U.S. citizen. Planned Parenthood says it's closed its 2 remaining clinics in Louisiana, making it the 4th and most populous U.S. state without a Planned Parenthood location. In a statement, Planned Parenthood's Gulf Coast chapter said the closures were not due to a lack of need, but were rather, quote, the direct result of relentless political assaults that have made it impossible to continue operating sustainably in Louisiana, unquote. Meanwhile, a federal judge in Texas has transferred a case challenging the right to medical abortions to a federal court in Missouri. Its district packed with anti-abortion judges who were appointed by President Trump. Attorneys general in Missouri, Kansas, and Idaho are suing to restrict the availability of the abortion pill mifepristone. In a statement, Reproductive Freedom for All said, quote, mifepristone has been safely used by millions for more than 2 decades and remains under threat because anti-abortion politicians are determined to ban and restrict it everywhere, even in states where abortion is protected. This is yet another blatant attempt at forcing a backdoor abortion ban, unquote. In Manchester, England, at least 2 people have been killed and 3 others seriously wounded this morning in a car-ramming and stagging attack on a synagogue. The violence came as congregants gathered for Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish year. Police say they shot and killed the assailant, who's not yet been identified. It's been investigated as a terrorist attack. In Morocco, police opened fire on a crowd of anti-government protesters in a small southern town Wednesday, killing 2 people. The deadly crackdown came as protesters took to the streets of at least 11 cities for a 5th consecutive night, demanding better schools, health care, and job opportunities. They're also criticizing the Moroccan government's multi-billion-dollar investment in infrastructure as co-host of the 2030 FIFA World Cup. This is a protester who spoke briefly with reporters in Rabat on Sunday.
We want this country to be in a better situation and for people to be treated as human beings and not as it is happening now, with a 2-tiered country. We are always asked the same thing. What are your demands? You all know our demands. We all have the same demands, the same goal, a dignified life.
As the protesters spoke, Moroccan police moved and dragged several demonstrators away. At least 400 people have been arrested so far in the Gen Z protests across Morocco, which are modeled after similar uprisings in Kenya and Nepal that were organized on social media sites. And the renowned primatologist and conservationist Jane Goodall has died at the age of 91. The Jane Goodall Institute announced her death in an Instagram post stating her discoveries, quote, revolutionized science, and she was a tireless advocate for the protection and restoration of our natural world, unquote. Jane Goodall was on a speaking tour around the United States and died in California of natural causes. Later in the broadcast, we'll broadcast excerpts from Democracy Now!'s interviews with Jane Goodall. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.